Yes, which was pretty awesome. Some of them were
Off the top of my head, compared.
You are now listening to the Voices of Dubai.
You're listening
Watching The Voices of Dubai with Joe Hage.
This is the Voices of
Ali,
Dubai.
thank you so much for joining me today on the Voices of Dubai. Sharraftna.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. Ali, I'm very curious. I really want to get this episode started because there's a lot of value. Like from our previous talk, I know that there's going to be a lot of value in this episode.
Thank you.
So to kickstart things, I'd like you to give us a bit of background about yourself, your career, your educational background, and what is it you do now, just to give some context for our viewers and listeners.
Sure. I was born and raised in Sharjah, and I went to a international school of Shuwaifat in Sharjah. So that's where I started learning English. And my mother was an English teacher as well. So I picked up a lot of English along the way. And from there to the University of Wollongong, where I studied business. And it was really there where we kind of started into the whole voice thing, just hanging out with friends and stuff. And I went down that path for a while as a student. But then, you know, you have to find a job and pay the bills and all that stuff. So I started going into banking,
Okay.
which was in line with what I studied.
Okay.
And that's what I still do today,
Awesome.
in addition to the voice work that I do separately. And I'm a part-time presenter on Pulse 95 in Sharjah.
Nice. Awesome. So I'm really curious. It's fascinating. Like you work as a banker.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious, you know, like what is it that attracted you to the world of voiceover?
That's actually a very interesting question because I think it started out with me when I was reading stories in this group read when you have in school, and then they tell you, you read this paragraph and you read that paragraph, and it came to me, and I still remember sitting there looking at the paragraph, leaning in like that, and going blah 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 blah, in that way, and liking the sound of my voice. I'm 11 years old, I think, but my voice is still starting to change, and I enjoyed doing that. I just remember like, oh yeah, and from there I started to kind of just imitate my teachers. I had Irish teachers and English teachers and Australians, and I used to be able to pick up their little accents and their little nuances when they spoke. So I used to do that just to kind of get a laugh out of my friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can absolutely relate to that.
You can relate to that. And then it would get me into trouble. And then one day when I was at university, I was just told like, hey man, they got this guy, we know someone who has a studio, and they're doing an ad for this. Would you be willing to do it?
Wow.
And I just went, yeah.
So would you say that was your first voiceover session ever?
It was.
Okay.
It was. I
So
never
at university, you had never experienced a professional session, and all of a sudden, after years of you imitating your professors, doing voices, and being immersed in that world, this opportunity came to you.
Yeah. So it was a friend who worked at a studio, a friend who knew a friend who worked at a studio, and said, listen, they want to do this ad. Do you want to do it? And make some money, which like at that time is like, whoa, I got some money in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's go for it. And then it was the first time I ever went into a studio and did it, and it was fun.
Well, can you tell us more about that experience?
Well, as a guy, like I said, I used to imitate my teachers and stuff. One of the things I used to do was also imitate movie stars and people with different accents or very unique ways of speaking. So, and we do it at a hangout with friends or in a party or whatever it is, and they just be like, ha ha ha, we like the way you do it. And when they signed me up, they said, listen, we've got the script, and we want you to do this script. They were selling some electronics. I really don't remember. This was like over 20 years ago. And they said, listen, we're selling these electronics at this place, Hyatt Regency, I think it was.
Okay.
And then they said, we want you to say these 3 lines, right? The first one with Marlon Brando's voice, right? So obviously I started to do the whole Godfather thing, the whole, And then the next one was Sean Connery, right? So I'd be like, yes, old boy, get your electronics. And then the third one was Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like worse.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you get Arnold Schwarzenegger. I remember it started off with something like, be there at the Hyatt Regency, on the 21st or something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously we ended it with, I'll be back.
Perfect.
So I remember doing that, and that was a lot of fun. Just fun doing it, and take after take after take after take. And then they had, at the time, remember you had the cassettes?
Yes.
So my friends would put it in the car, and they just play it over and over and over and over. So yeah, that was my very first ever voiceover.
That's awesome. After that experience, did you go through a phase where you started to really want more and more of these opportunities? And did you go to record demos with other studios to push your work? What happened after that session?
The interesting thing that happened was that after I'd done that, I think I might have done another thing with them as well, which I don't remember now. But I had my voice at that studio, and then there was a presenter on Dubai 92 FM, the late, great Jason Lumber.
Okay.
Who actually called me and said, listen, I've got this thing for a mall where I want you to, say the things in English and Arabic, because he didn't have an Arabic speaker. And he said, would you be willing to do it? And I said, yeah. And he invited me over to his house, where he had a full-on setup and everything. And I started there. And I obviously wanted more and more and more. And I started to get a few jobs here and there. But then, life intervened, and I ended up, focusing more on, my job and the practical things. And that didn't, didn't come as frequently. And then I think it was, maybe it was in 2013 or thereabouts, where I just somehow stumbled upon an opportunity to do. This is what happened. I met somebody who was in the industry, and as I was talking to him in his studio, I said, "Listen, do you do ads and stuff?" He said, "No, I don't do it, but these guys upstairs do it." So I ran upstairs and I did a demo.
Nice.
And then I got a call back saying, "Listen, we got this ad. Would you like to come and do this?" And I said, "Yeah." And that went on for a while. And then one day, in hope of just getting more work, I emailed Mohammed Saeed Harb,
Okay.
who does Frige
Yes.
and other cartoons.
Yes.
And
he owns Lamtara.
And he owns Antara, correct. And he was extremely, extremely gracious enough that he answered my email and immediately, without even asking for a demo, cast me in his cartoon Siraj.
Amazing.
Which is on YouTube. I think that was somewhere near 2017, maybe. And I got a call, and they said, listen, we've cast you in this role. Now, you didn't even demo me. You're done. You're in this role.
Yeah.
I said, what's the role? They said, you're a shrimp.
Okay.
Okay. So I went in. I did it. And the funny story happened was after I was done, it was a very straight kind of role. So I'm the shrimp. If you ever see it on YouTube, I'm the shrimp. I think it was season 2. In Arabic. This is all Arabic. And I sat down with, after this. So as a shrimp, I'm a judge.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm like this, Ahlan bikuma.
That was the actual voice of the shrimp?
That was the voice of the shrimp.
Well,
yeah,
okay.
He's a judge.
Okay.
Okay, so he has to be very serious. And when I sat down, because I'm in the studio, I'm in that world now. I don't want to go home. I'm just sitting down. I'm just chatting with the guys, the technicians, and the people from Lamtara. And they said, "Hey Ali, do you know somebody who can sound like Gollum from Lord of the Rings?"
Wow. Yeah.
I was like, "For what?" I said, "We have a bat, right? The next character is a bat, and we're having trouble casting this bat. And do you know somebody who can do this sort of Gollum-like voice that's like?" I said, "I could do it." And they said, No, you have a very distinctive voice. No, you can't do it. So I went,
Yeah, precious.
You know?
And their eyes went like,
And
oh,
they're like, in now.
yeah, you're our bat. That's awesome.
So I did the bat. So yeah, that was very gracious of them to do that.
But that's also like, to me, it sounds like you had the instinct to like tell them, hey, I can also switch my tone.
Yeah.
You know, and because of your versatility with your voice, that actually landed you another role,
Yeah.
which is awesome. You know, like I always say that versatility is one of the keys to really getting more and more work from
Yeah.
in the voiceover industry.
Yeah. You know, it's, you think, because you're in the bathroom and you sound with the echo, you sound really nice. You think, oh, I got a great voice, you know. But I always say one thing, and that is, it's one thing when you're sitting down with friends in the common room of a university and you're just, you know, playing with your voice because you can do it. And, you know, them taking, you know, they can't do it, so they think what you're doing is amazing. And it's another thing when you're there with professionals.
With professional equipment.
Professional equipment, but also professional people. Because professional people, you know, they can see through the, you know, the fact that you may have a talent, but you're not disciplined. You haven't properly used that talent. And that's one of the things I remember I picked up from a lot of people. I sat down once with somebody who used to be in the TV industry. And he sat with me and I kept saying, I say, look, man, I do this and la, la, la. And I made him hear some of my work. And he said, nah, you need to fix that voice of yours.
Really?
Yeah.
And that was I imagine, a different comment from what you were used to hear from your
Exactly.
friends, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But it's humbling.
Yeah.
You know, it makes you think like, yeah, I know, I got to step up my game. I need to step up my game because if you just sit back on it and think, yeah, I'm good. No, you need to keep stepping up your game and improving. And the only way you can improve is by practicing and keep doing it and take the work and just keep going and going.
Beautifully said. I absolutely agree. Ali, I'd like to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Before the 2013 session that you were talking about, you mentioned something that really interested me about life getting in the way. What exactly did you mean from that?
Well, it's like everybody, you know, we grow up, we have to take on our responsibilities. We have to pay the bills or we have to take ourselves. You're no longer a kid anymore. Now you need to start, you know, you need to start working, you need to start building a career for yourself. So the opportunity came for me to work in a bank at that time. And I thought, I have to take this opportunity because I have to start learning and start building my career for myself and things like that. So I took that road in thinking, okay, I could do this and I can work on this on the side, you know? But I found myself kind of veering away from doing voice work for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's basically what I meant. So I found myself veering away from it. And then after a few years, I thought, well, why don't I go back and try?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm very happy you mentioned this because there's this misconception, you know, this myth that voiceovers is easy money and it's easy to break into and anybody can be a voiceover. The reality is, and I mean, you've experienced it for yourself and I certainly have as well, you have bills to pay.
Yeah.
And unless you're already at a level where you have connections in the industry, you have done lots of different jobs in very different ranges as well, you know, like deep voiced commercial reads, you know, or radio spots with high energy or even character reads. Unless you have that, then the frequency of the jobs that you're going to get is not going to be as high as you might think, you know? So some people are like, oh, it's easy money.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But it's not.
It's not easy money.
It's not.
It's, so when you're a freelancer, you know, you never know. You have a good month. You may not have a good 2 months after that. It's very sporadic. And there's a lot of competition out there, you know. So one of the things that I have to shout out to Pulse 95 Radio, especially Safe, Christina, Vikas, Louis, Omnia, all these guys are fantastic.
Nice.
And these guys gave me the chance to come in and have something a bit more steady and more vocal with a wider reach. And that's something where you think, okay, well, that's a bit stable because I know I'm doing something with a professional station. They, by the way, are also people who immediately answered my email and took interest and had a chance to, or gave me the chance to come in and demo and help correct my imbalances.
Sure.
But when you're just a freelancer, you never know. You might have 3 jobs a day, and you might have no job for 3 months.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And going back to the point of having bills to pay, that's everybody. I don't think you can find a successful person out there who immediately found success and didn't have. A lot of people will tell you, before I became a movie star, before I became a pop star, before I became whatever it is that they're successful at in today, I was waiting tables. I was, I don't know, a clerk somewhere. I think wasn't it Peter Dinklage who was working in I think it was a software company or something.
Wow.
My mistake.
Wow.
If I'm wrong. But it was, everybody struggled at one point. But as humans, we still have to take on the responsibility of our lives because nobody's going to take it on for us. It doesn't matter what your background is. So because of that requirement, you have to do that. Now, the trick is, are you able to balance that with what it is that you like doing? Call it a hobby, call it a passion, a calling, whatever it is. If we look at it realistically, we don't just say, oh, it's my passion and stuff, so I'm going to throw everything away and I'm just going to sit down here and do that. Well, you could, but then everything has a price in life. You know what I mean? So you need to be a bit more realistic about things.
Sure.
Say, okay, fine. This is what I'm doing, but I can do this. It could be a side gig, or it could be a professional thing down the line, or it could be that. And that's everybody in life. That's everyone in life. So the trick is to just follow your gut, follow your instinct, but keep your head right. And there is something to say when you in following I think it's called the straight and narrow, where you're just
Following the herd, you mean, or
not the herd. It's like I'm following a path,
yeah,
right? And if I'm following this path, it doesn't mean that everything else outside is excluded.
yeah.
But I'm following this path like every human being on earth is following this path. The trick would be to look out and say, okay, well, look, there's also this here, there's also that, and that can also be a part of my life.
Absolutely.
And to be able to balance that.
That's beautifully said, man. That's beautifully said. Actually, while you were talking, you reminded me of a book that I'm currently reading by Cal Newport. The book is called something about why passion is not enough. I forgot the title. I'll get back to you on the title. It's a very interesting book. This guy wrote another one called Deep Work. It's about like how to focus in today's society where you're very, distracted by social media and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, this book argues that people who have achieved success, like what's his name, Apple, Steve Jobs, for example, did not work in his passion, and that basically when people tell you follow your passion, that's actually crap advice.
Yeah, the problem with advice, and I hate giving advice, but the problem with it is that it's easy to throw away. I can sit down in my chair and tell you, Joe, the way you're living your life, while my life needs me focusing on that, as opposed to me focusing on your life and giving you advice. Before I can give you advice, I need to make sure that I'm, worthy of giving you that advice, that I've been through that struggle or whatever it is that I know, for me to tell you, look, don't do this or do this because this is my experience, not just to throw away advice. And a lot of times I find that advice is just freely thrown around. Follow your gut, follow your passion, follow your... Fine. But that doesn't mean that you need to throw everything else away
Yeah.
and just follow that. Follow your passion by all means. You know, it'll make you happy. But like I said, you know, keep at least one foot on the ground
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have other responsibilities. We're living full lives.
Yeah.
We're not living for ourselves alone. And we're living full lives. So the full life is never easy.
What do you mean by that? Full life. And we're not living just for ourselves. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so you're living a full life, which means that my life has a lot of different things in it, different facets in it. And not for ourselves because we're living with a lot of people in our lives. You know, some of them would be dependent on us. Some of them may not be dependent, but may just be a part of our lives. And we have to make sure that when we are taking any decisions in our lives, that we're not completely ignoring that part of it.
And the consequences on other people. That
exactly, consequences on the people that are with me. And also at the same time, I can't ignore where I'm from, my background, my religion, my upbringing, and all those things. These are all part of me.
Sure.
Part of my life. So every decision I make, every path I follow, has to be in line with that in my mind.
Your values.
My values. Because it's easy to say I'm following my passion. I'm going to get on a plane tomorrow, go to wherever it is
To
in
Hollywood,
the world, Hollywood,
Yeah.
and start there. Fine. Some people have done that.
Yeah.
But everything in life has a price. So are you willing to pay that price? Well, if you want to have a nice, full, wholesome life, you have to make sure that you are, you know, that your life is in line with your values.
Absolutely.
And that you are doing whatever it takes to make sure that you protect your life, your loved ones, and yourself.
Beautifully said, man. And speaking of which, protecting your interests and following your values, I want to go back a little bit to how it relates to the voiceover world. So in that sense, I wanted to know from you, like from your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when first entering this very competitive and dynamic industry?
The challenge, I would say, is I would think the work frequency. Like I said, you have a really good month, and then you don't have a great month. Also, I found that a lot of people who give you that work are they themselves, they're also struggling. You know, you understand what I mean? So say, well, you do it now, and then I'll pay you in 3 months. 3 months later, the company folded.
Yeah.
You don't get paid for your work.
Yeah.
You know, all you have is a demo, if that. So those are things that if you're sitting down going, okay, I'm waiting for this payment or I'm waiting for that, then you won't get paid for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then there's also the frequency of work. There's a lot of competition. You can sit down and say, I have the greatest voice, I have the greatest diction in the world, I have the greatest enunciation. But there are 1,000 people out there that can do it as well.
Absolutely.
You know? So you need to be mindful of that, I think.
Yeah, that's very good advice for anyone out there. It's not easy, and you need lots of practice, dedication,
for sure.
persistence, and also, like you said now, having a thick skin, you know, like not being affected by late payments or not having a good month full of jobs.
And rejection.
Handling rejection, absolutely. We had Maria Bagnulo with us the other time, and she's been recording for 25 years.
Wow.
And she said it, you know, like even with all the jobs I've done, for 1 month, I wouldn't have anything at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's like as if people forgot about me.
Yeah.
But then the next month, I'd have 4 people calling me every day for 3 weeks.
That's right.
So it's I find that really interesting because it's that kind of experience certainly developed resilience for me. You know, not to be affected by what happens outside. Focus on yourself. You know, okay, if you're having a quiet month, great, more time for practice, right? There are so many scripts out there that you
Yep.
can download and read, and like you said, read out loud and practice.
Yeah, I think it's very important that if you don't get a job, okay, I think George Clooney said it. He said that in your first 100 auditions, you're not going to get the job. And look at where he is today. You know, interesting fact: George Clooney used to drive his aunt around. That was his job at one point. So people are going to reject you for whatever reason. You may think you're great, but they just don't want what you have.
Yeah.
And it's a two-way thing. One is to say, okay, well, what can I do to be better? And the other way is also to say, well, look, that's just part of the game. It is what it is. Maybe they're going to pick somebody with much worse voice, a much worse diction, can't read. I've heard this many times. So, like, I'd be maybe rejected from a particular job. Then I'd hear that job that I was rejected from, and I think, that's not how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
You know? But they picked him or her and then picked me. So it's fine. It's fine. That's the game. That's the game. You either choose to play the game or you don't. And that's it.
It's all about the mindset and the approach that you take
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. It is. You have to develop what Sylvester Stallone calls alligator hide.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You need to be able to say, oh, okay, well, I didn't get that job, big deal. Or I went into the studio and the guy there went, nah, you're mumbling. Nah, you don't sound great. Oh, this happened to me as well. I'm not feeling it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did they mean by that? I'm not feeling it.
I mean, I think they
It's a
wanted...
very broad statement.
Yeah, no. What happened? Like, see, because this is also very important, and that's not something that I took personally or felt bad about. In fact, that was for me like, I think I need to work on that.
Okay.
Because it's one thing to be able to... It's like a musician. Your voice is like your instrument. A musician can play. I think I heard Frank Zappa, I think 2 nights ago, I was watching something and I saw Frank Zappa, and he said, look, you can play the scales, and you can play as fast as you can if you practice. Just practice the scales, you'll get faster and you'll get better. But it's the feeling that makes the music.
I love that.
It's my expression that makes the music. So you give me a script, and I'll be able to say it, la 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 la, and great. Yeah, my echoey sound came across the recording. But was there that human emotion? Did I convey a message, an emotion, something that brand, that script, that person requires? And that's the real thing, because people listening to you, they want to relate to you. They want to relate to what it is that you're listening. We hear millions of ads every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you want something that resonates. I think I read somewhere where Tom Hanks said, this may be a little bit off, but I think it links to this, which is Tom Hanks, they asked him, they said, what are your favorite movies and stuff? He said, I like the movies where I can picture myself in that situation.
Nice, yeah. That he can relate to, basically.
That I can relate to. And I think, fine, I'm selling a dishwasher. I'm not going to picture myself, but I can picture myself, well, even that, I can picture myself feeling great about this dishwasher.
True.
If this guy is giving me that message that this dishwasher is like...
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know how... I think one of the things I learned when I did a business course once upon a time, a long, long time ago, is that they tell you when you're on the phone, smile. That smile is carried across on your...
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. It's so true.
It is. But sometimes let's just say I'm ordering food, right? And the guy tells me, would you like this with fries or would you like it with the salad? And I'd say, fries. And he'd be like, good choice. I'd be like, are you reading that from somewhere?
Yeah. Is that a script in front of you?
Yeah.
Good choice.
It's so unauthentic.
Yeah.
You're selling it. Don't sell. Don't sell it. Make it look like we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Make it feel natural.
It's like saying for fries, please press 1.
Yeah.
For salad, please press 2.
Please press 2. Well done. You got the salad. You know?
Terms and conditions apply.
Batteries not included.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, Ali, to go back a little bit to what you were saying now about connecting and establishing a connection with the audience through an ad. I really love that point because that's something I really promote. I'm really promoting is the use of professional human voiceover talents. So at the moment, as you know, text-to-speech technology has been on the rise, and you hear a lot of these robot voices, synthetic voices, and they're sounding better and better. I want to know what are your thoughts on these developments and how will that affect us as professional voiceover talent, in your opinion?
You know, what the future holds, I have no idea. Because I could sit down and say, like the old people said, you know, TV will never take over radio. You know, and then TV was everywhere. And cinema will never take over theater or whatever it is. The internet will die out. Whatever it is that people will say, will say. So I don't really know where this is going, you know. But all I can say is that for me personally, as a listener, and as we were just saying right now, and also whenever I'm somewhere, and they'll say, "Yeah, listen, do it online, do it on the app, do it on this, do it on that," or you try to call for a service, and it's just this IVR talking to you the whole time. You know, if you want this, press 1. If you want this, press 2. I don't want any of those things. You know, I want to talk to a human being.
Yes, yes.
You know, I want to be able to say, well, look, could you help me out with this? Or what about this? What do you think about that? I like that conversation. And I don't know where it's going, but I wouldn't want that to be lost. You know?
The human connection.
The human connection. Because I think that's the backbone of everything. You know, it's one thing I can say I can get a robot or a machine or a software to speak for me. But it's at the end of the day, how human, how much authenticity is actually going to come out of that, as opposed to when you're actually talking to someone. You know?
Yeah. And how do you think that will affect brands? Like, let's say one of your favorite brands decides to stop using a professional voiceover talent that they've been using for years and instead start including an AI voice to their ads. How would you react to that?
You know, I don't know, because I really haven't been following it that much, but I don't know if AI, I could be wrong, but would AI have a thing where the little nuances that can only come from a human being, maybe you can record it and replicate it, I don't know. But those little nuances, let's just say a tongue-in-cheek, a smile, a thing, can that be replicated? Can that authenticity be replicated? Because for me, that's something that would, let's just say I'm driving down a car. I'm driving a car. And I'm focused on the road. And this is, I'm listening to it, but essentially it's background. And I can listen all day or whatever, but then suddenly something triggers something in my mind because he said it in a certain way. He said it maybe with some dry humor or a tone of sarcasm, you know? And that's kind of like, whoa, because it just triggers like, it gives you a little giggle.
Sure.
Can AI do that? I don't know.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Ali, I'm curious.
Yeah.
What is the work that you do for Pulse?
Yeah, so I have a show with them called Stardust, where I write about celebrities and how they started. Pulse was really nice, where we discussed about possible ideas for this show, and this was the one that came up. and they were like, "Yeah, go with it."
That's great.
So we agree on the content and what to say and how to do the show, and then I think it's played about 5 times a day throughout the day, because just small segments at the moment. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun to do.
That's awesome. And can you tell us more about the process? Like, do you do the research, write the scripts, and then record? And
Yeah, so I will write the script and I'll do the research, and I'll try to find maybe some snippets where what the celebrity is saying,
quotes and stuff.
and stuff like that, and then I run it by the technician who helps me with that show, Vikas. Shout out to Vikas. And he'll come back with his feedback. He'll say, "Well, you know what? That's probably not going to work," or whatever. And he will do pretty much everything else from there. I'll record it, and then he will do the editing and the mixing and the music and linking everything together. And
Nice.
And then boom, it's on the show. It's on air.
So you're recording at home?
I have a setup at home, yes.
Awesome. For our listeners and viewers, could you tell us what is your setup? Like, what does it include? And how did you get that urge, to, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to invest in a home studio. And for someone who wants to get started and wants to do that, what would you tell them to buy first?
Okay. So the reason I set it up at home is because every time I'd have to drive half an hour to an hour to the studio to do it, which understandably, whenever there's a client that wants to be there and hear you out, there's no other way around it. So, but sometimes you get some work where you tell yourself, well, I want to do this, I could do this at home and send it.
Yeah.
So it's I bought a microphone over time, and over advice from many people in the industry. Someone said, well, listen, buy the Rode mic. Someone said, well, go and buy this mixer. Someone said, go and buy this Chaotica ball. Someone said, go and do. So it was a lot of things that just sort of came together. And, you go buy that, you go buy this, you go buy that, you set it up. And then there's the most important part, the wardrobe.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So I've got coats hanging and the mic inside in the middle, and I'm inside the wardrobe. And obviously, go to my kids. Shh.
Daddy's recording.
Daddy's recording. Next thing you know, your neighbor's doing something. There's some construction outside my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
A plane is flying by, and you're like, pause. And then you come back again, and your kid's getting bored up there. He's running around. So, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And it's, it beats the half an hour to an hour drive and back.
Sure.
So I would say just understand the equipment, talk to people who know, and, nothing's going to come the first time. There's going to be a trial and error. And that's what happened. The mic doesn't sound good, or this doesn't sound good, or maybe it doesn't sound good in this room. Maybe it'll sound better in this room.
It's a lot of troubleshooting, isn't it?
Yeah. And trial and error. Yeah, it is.
Figuring out what doesn't work, why isn't it working, and how can I improve. And again, I think from everything you've been saying, you really have that mindset, of continuous improvement. And I can definitely relate to that. If something isn't working, or if someone told you, you have a good voice, but you could do this, or that. I will always listen. I will take what is useful and reject what is not. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if you heard that saying, you don't take finance advice from a baker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you listen to someone who's not where you're at for advice?
Exactly. So that's why I always say advice is just being thrown around freely. So if you're successful in a particular field and you want to give me advice on that field, then yes, fine, I'll listen to you. But if you're successful, and just because you're successful, you can maybe give me advice on, say, parenting, whereas your own life isn't doing so well, then I won't take your advice. But there's more to it, I think. I'm a different man and you're a different man, Joe. And I can tell you, listen, Joe, what you're doing here is blah, 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 right? But maybe the way you reach to that same point is different than the way that I reach to that point.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So I can only tell you from my experience what worked for me.
Sure. From your perception, perspective, experience.
Right. In everything. Maybe you will be luckier and get more jobs. It could be anything. From the way that you look, from the way that you speak, from the way that you present yourself, from your, I don't know, aura with people, that you are able to get more jobs. So I can't necessarily tell you, I can give you some pointers that worked for me and say, look, this is what worked for me. I did this, 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 and then I got a call based on this, I got a call based on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe you do the same thing. It may not work for you because you're not going to approach it in the same way that I did.
Exactly, yeah. So speaking of which, speaking of advice,
Yeah.
if someone came up to you now, okay, and says, Ali, I love the work that you're doing, and based on all the experience, all your experience, all the voiceover sessions that you've done, what are 3 truths about the industry that you believe are like a reality?
I will go back and say the reality is, I think the first thing that comes to mind is you may sound great, but without practice, you know, you're still an amateur. You need to go in, you need to take the hits, you need to have somebody tell you, no, actually, you know what, you don't sound great. No, I want you to do that take again and again and again. Going back to the point of feeling, like I said, I had that once. And it was a session, and I kept doing the take again and again and again. And after, like, I don't know, maybe it was like 10 takes,
Wow.
the client went, yeah, I'm beginning to feel it.
Wow, okay.
You know?
Okay.
So if you don't listen, you take that kind of thing to heart, and oh no, I'm not good at this, then you won't learn. You have to understand and say, okay, well, you know what? I get what he's trying to say. Because, like I said, it's something when I'm sitting down with my family, with my friends, and I'm doing voiceovers, or I'm on the phone, you know, just going, hey there, you know, and they're going, you sound like you're somebody on the radio. They're not professionals in this field.
Yes.
But when you're with professionals in this field, it's a whole new game. You're one of many. You need to stand out now.
Sure.
So they're going to tell you 1, 2, 3, and you need to understand that that's part of the game. So that's one thing. The other thing is you need to continuously practice, continuously improve yourself. And the only way you can do that is by on your own, when you read, you listen to yourself. I can't say I'm the most disciplined man on earth, but somebody told me put a pencil between your mouth and start reading.
It's funny because Mais Muhammad also mentioned that, yeah.
Mentioned that. So I think I did it a few times and didn't like the taste of the pencil. But, well, I'm not going to tell you that you have to do that. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I'm saying that and many other things is part of your process of improvement. And so whatever it is, when you're reading, let's just say you're reading on your own, read it once or you read it twice, go back. Okay, maybe I can do it better. Maybe I could do it better. Maybe I could do it better. So that's something that's very important.
So from what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it's about putting your ego aside.
Oh yeah.
Being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And being realistic and down to earth about it. You know, saying like, okay, it might sound good to me, but according to professionals who've been doing this for decades, how can I improve my game so that it sounds up to par in terms of quality?
Yes. So, and also, unless you have that feedback from the professionals, you're not going to know. Because they'll tell you, you a bit more feeling, and then you can go too much. And then they'll have to bring you back. So it's when you find that balance isn't something that you sit down at night thinking, maybe if I say it like that, that's the balance.
Yeah.
It comes with practice.
Sure.
The third thing I want to say, you, like me, like anybody, is unique. If I go in trying to sound like you, I will fail. I have to sound like me. Because at the end of the day, my diction, my feeling, and all that is there, but then there's me.
Yeah.
That's what's coming out. It's coming out of my own vocal cords, right?
Your
With
personality.
My personality and my feeling. And that is an intangible thing, right? That can be one of your selling points.
Absolutely.
So that's, stay true to yourself in that way.
I love that,
I would
man.
say.
I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Ali, you've recorded for some of the biggest brands across the globe and in the UAE. And I'm not going to name all of them or else we're going to be here for 3 hours. But some of them were ADNOC, Dubai Parks and Resorts, Otrivin, etc., etc. From all of these different brands, different types of reads as well, because some of them were corporate reads, others were radio spots, IVRs, etc. Would you say that one of them really stood out for you, and which session would that be? Do you remember?
It's difficult to pick one. Each session had its own challenges and it had its own rewards. So it's very difficult. But I do remember one particular session. And the reason I say this is I'll tell you what happened. And that's why it sticks out in my mind. It was for Union Force 8.
Okay.
And they were doing a video for Expo.
Okay.
Expo 2020. So in the line, it said, "With God, our country, our president." And I just kind of threw in a suggestion. And I said, well, I'm an Emirati, and this is about our country, the UAE. I said, can I say Allah instead of God? And they said, yeah, go for it. So I did that. I thought, yeah, that's nice. Okay, good. I like the way it sounds. And I was happy that my suggestion was taken. And then as I was done, I went back to the technician's side, and he was mapping the voice to the music to the image. And he kind of, I don't know how he did it so quickly, but he managed to do the whole video just like in a matter of seconds or something. And I sat there, I was watching the video, and maybe it was just the images and the stuff, and then my voice coming through, that I went, whoa. And that day I was in the studio, and my wife was downstairs, I think walking around. And I ran down, I said, come, you gotta see this. I took her up to the studio, we sat down and watched the whole video again.
Nice.
I was like, what do you think? And she thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
That one really stands out.
Awesome. That's great. Because that's something that I've been talking to a lot of voice talents about, is that us as voices, we don't always see the end result.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you just record your voice, you send it, and then you never hear the actual thing, the fully produced thing.
Correct.
With music, with visuals. Sometimes you only hear your raw voice.
Yeah.
And the voice that you send. And then maybe months later, you ask the studio, hey, do you have a record of that? And they send you the video, and you actually hear your voice with the music and see it with visuals, and that really is a very different experience from just the raw voice, isn't it?
Very much. Every time I'm in a studio doing a recording, I always come out and say, listen, guys, can I have a copy when it's done? Some of them are very nice and say, yeah, sure, give us your WhatsApp and we'll send it to you. And some are like, yeah, sure, we'll do it, and then they never do it.
Yeah.
And you find it on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's always nice. It's always rewarding to hear it. There was an ad that I'd done, and I remember I was sitting down with my daughter, and I was just playing the ad, and my daughter went, "I see that on YouTube all the time. Is that you?"
Really?
You know.
Wow.
And I felt like the biggest movie star at that point. Like,
Of course, yeah.
You know, but it was because I had a copy of that video, you know, that I was able to do that. But you never really you never understand how anybody else perceives it.
Sure,
Until
sure.
somebody says, "Hey, listen, I saw that, and I thought it was really, really, really good." When you have that reference, you have that video yourself. You're thinking, I know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. As opposed to just having the voice alone.
Yeah.
You don't know what it's going to sound like in context.
Exactly. So I always try to make it a point to get a copy of the video, if not for promotional purposes, at least for myself. You know, just to give myself a pat on the back and say,
Sure.
Yeah, I sounded great there.
Yeah, that's a great project.
That was me.
Ali, I'm curious, is there a recording or a couple of lines that you really remember vividly and that you could demonstrate for us here on the Voices of Dubai?
Oh, dear. I'm a big fan of William Shakespeare.
Okay.
I hope I can remember all of it. So this is, I think it's Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Wow, that's brilliant, man. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Ali, I have one more question, and thank you for being so generous with us. Well, my last question, and I'd really like to give our viewers and listeners your perception on the whole industry, and more specifically to voiceover talents. What, in your opinion, makes a great voiceover talent?
Voices are a very important part of the human personality. I can look at you and think, yeah, Joe is a nice guy. But how you end up speaking to me can change that perception very fast. Not just your voice or the tone of your voice, which is a contributing factor, but also the way you say it. You know, are you a sarcastic man? You know, I'm whatever, yeah, whatever. Or do you have that lightness in your voice? You know, oh yeah, sure. And as we were saying earlier, it's your emotion, it's your personality coming through, while keeping in mind that you need to have a certain clarity, enunciation, and a certain ability to understand, okay, this is where I need to stop. This is where I need to carry on and not stop. I have to stop to breathe here. And if you get too technical, I'll stop here, and I'll breathe here, and I'll do this, then you'll get lost. It's like the centipede who wondered which foot should go first. That comes with practice. That comes with time. And you have to be willing to do those practices, to go to those sessions, to be told you're no good, so that you can become good. And it's not like, it's like with anything. If you're somebody who's chopping vegetables. You know, the first time you'll be like that. You know, after your 100th vegetable, you'll just be like that. That won't come with you just playing it in your mind. It'll come with you using the tools that you have. And it's the same thing with your voice. So, you know, you have to play the game. You have to understand it when people tell you you need to be better. Go out and be better, and then just keep playing until it works out and gets better for you.
Awesome, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Ali, I want to acknowledge you, first of all, for being here today and for sharing your knowledge, your experience, your truths, and your perceptions on the industry. But also, we spoke a lot about like the mindset, you know, and the mindset that you need to have to really break it into this industry. Because whether we like it or not, there are lots of challenges, and it's not as easy as people think it might be.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for all that value that you provided, and for sharing all those insights today with us on the Voices of Dubai.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for having this program, which is a great program.
Pleasure.
And I'll thank you for having me on the program.
Of course, man. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute
Thank you,
pleasure.
Ali.
Thank you so much.